You were sold a story about yourself. It goes like this: you are a miracle, a one in a trillion fluke, a random heap of atoms that, against impossible odds, happen to fall into the exact shape of a living, breathing, thinking you. Cosmic lottery. Roll the dice enough times and eventually something wins. That's the story almost everyone quietly believes about why they're here. Blind luck stretched to its breaking point. But there's a strand of physics, real, published, sitting in peer-reviewed journals right now, that points the other way. It suggests that under the right conditions, matter doesn't just occasionally stumble into life against the odds, it gets pushed. That order, complexity, the exact kind of structure you are made of, it might be less like winning a lottery and more like water finding its way downhill. Not a fluke, a tendency. And if that's true, it rewrites the most personal question you can ask. You've always wondered how you got so lucky. The stranger question, the one the physics forces on you, is whether luck had anything to do with it at all. Stay with me, because to see why, we have to break the single most misunderstood law in all of physics. The one you were taught guarantees that everything always falls apart. Why? Everything falls apart. Pour a little milk into black coffee and watch what happens. It swirls. It makes those beautiful curling ribbons for a second or two. And then it blends into a flat, even brown and stays that way forever. You could sit at that table until the end of time, and the milk will never unmix itself back into a clean white swirl. You know this in your bones. You've never even questioned it, because it's just how the world works. And it is how the whole world works. Your coffee goes cold, never hot on its own. Ice melts in the glass. The puddle never refreezes itself. Drop a wine glass, and it shatters. You have never once seen shards leap up and reassemble. Your room drifts toward mess without any effort at all, and toward clean only when you fight for it. Everything, everywhere, all the time seems to slide in one direction, from order toward chaos, from neat toward scattered, from something toward nothing in particular. Physicists gave this one-way slide a name, the second law of thermodynamics. It is arguably the most ironclad rule in all of science. It's the reason time seems to flow forward. It's the reason nothing lasts. It's the reason you can tell a movie is playing backward the instant you see broken glass leap back into a window. Left alone, the universe smooths everything out, cools everything down, and breaks everything apart. Order is expensive, mess is free. That's the deepest bookkeeping in physics. So here's the thing nobody ever stops on. In a universe whose deepest rule is that everything falls apart, how did you happen? The question. No one asks. Look down at your own hand for a second. That hand is the least smoothed out, least scattered, most stubbornly organized lump of matter for millions of miles in any direction. Trillions of parts arranged with a precision no factory on Earth can touch, holding their pattern for decades against a cosmos whose favorite move is to erase exactly that. You are order walking around in a universe that supposedly only ever destroys it, and nobody can quite tell you how you got the exemption. Think about what you actually are. Trillions of cells, each one a microscopic city, running thousands of chemical reactions per second, all coordinated, all maintained, all held in exquisite order, without a single break, for the entire length of your life. A rock doesn't do that. A puddle doesn't do that. A mountain, for all its size, is just slowly crumbling. You are the single most organized, least random object in your entire neighborhood. And the universe's favorite trick is supposed to be dissolving exactly that kind of order into lukewarm mush. And you don't just exist once, briefly, by luck. You persist. You repair yourself. Cut your skin, and it knits itself back together without a single instruction from you. You replace nearly every atom in your body over the years, and yet the pattern, the you, holds. You hold your shape against a relentless tide that is trying, every second of every day, to pull you apart into the same formless nothing as everything else. That's not a one-time fluke that got lucky at the starting line. That's a standing, decades-long act of defiance, renewed every moment you're alive. So which is it? Either life is somehow breaking the most reliable law in physics, cheating it, fighting it, an outlaw pocket of order the universe simply hasn't crushed yet, or something much stranger is going on, something we had backwards from the start. The textbook answer, and its flaw. For a long time, the honest scientific answer was a shrug. Life looked like a rebellion against physics. beautiful, defiant, and staggeringly improbable. A local miracle that had, against all reason, gotten away with it. But that answer is wrong. And the reason it's wrong is the most quietly shocking idea I have ever come across in physics. Because it doesn't say life escapes the law. It says the law builds life on purpose. Here's what the textbook gives you, and it's correct as far as it goes. It just stops one step too early. Life doesn't break the second law. It found a loophole, and the loophole is hiding in a single word, closed. The second law's promise, that order always decays into disorder, applies strictly only to a closed system, something sealed off with no energy coming in or going out, a thermos with the lid screwed tight. You are not closed, the earth is not closed. Every second a torrent of concentrated energy pours onto this planet from the sun, and that changes everything. With energy flooding in, a living thing can build and maintain its own internal order as long as it pays a tax. It takes in concentrated energy, food, sunlight, fuel, and it dumps out a larger amount of disorder as waste heat, spreading more chaos into its surroundings than the order it builds inside itself. You are a tidy room that keeps itself tidy by throwing all its garbage out the window. The room gets neater, the street outside gets worse, and the total mess in the world still climbs. The universe's books balance to the last decimal. Life just carves out a small temporary pocket of order and quietly hands the bill to the sun. Every bite you eat is you importing order and exporting mess. Every warm breath you exhale into a cold room is you paying down that debt in real time. The heat coming off your skin right now is entropy, leaving you and spilling into the world. You've been settling this account your entire life, every second, without once thinking about it, and you will keep settling it until the moment the payments stop. It's a clean answer, elegant even. Life doesn't defeat the second law. It obeys it by being a very disciplined accountant, building order in one place and always paying for it with extra disorder somewhere else. And that lands on a comfortable conclusion. Life is a loophole, a clever little pocket of order that barely gets away with existing by settling its entropy bill on time. It squeaks past the law by never quite breaking it. But squeaks past is exactly the wrong way to picture it, because the law isn't reluctantly tolerating life. What it's actually doing is far harder to accept. Where the law breaks open. The textbook says life barely gets away with it. A loophole, a clever accountant squeaking past. But the universe does something far stranger. The law doesn't just permit order. Under the right conditions, it manufactures it. Here's the experiment that turns the whole picture inside out. Take a shallow layer of ordinary fluid and heat it gently from below. Simple. No life, no design, no plan, no hand reaching in, just heat flowing through. And past a certain threshold, something uncanny happens. The fluid spontaneously organizes itself into a grid of neat, repeating hexagonal cells, like a honeycomb pressed into the liquid, each one a tiny rolling loop of circulation carrying heat upward. It happens every time. You can do it in a pan on your stove. Nobody put that pattern there. Order appeared out of nowhere, not despite the energy flowing through, but because of it. Physicists call these dissipative structures. This isn't fringe speculation or a hopeful guess. It won a Nobel Prize in the 1970s. Pour energy through matter, and again, matter answers by organizing itself into structures that help move that energy through faster. A whirlpool spiraling down your drain is one. A hurricane is one. A vast, coherent, terrifyingly organized structure that exists for a single reason: to haul heat from a warm ocean up into the cold sky. That is order built by the universe in the very act of spreading energy out. The organization isn't fighting the flow. The organization is the flow, made efficient. Now push that idea all the way to its edge. A more recent, and far more provocative, argument says, if energy keeps pouring through a soup of atoms for long enough, matter will statistically drift toward whatever arrangements are best at absorbing that energy and dissipating it. And here's the kicker. Structures that can copy themselves, that grow and replicate and spread, turn out to be spectacularly good at exactly that. 1 becomes 2 becomes 4, each one burning through energy, so self-replication itself may be thermodynamically favored. Read that again. The most basic signature of life, making copies of yourself, may be something energy flow actively pushes matter toward. I have to be straight with you. That final step is where physics stops being settled and starts arguing hard in the journals. But even the argument is extraordinary. So let me put you inside it. A pool on the early Earth shrink down. Stand at the edge of a warm, shallow pool on a young, lifeless Earth. There is no life here, nothing alive for 1,000 miles, because nothing alive exists anywhere on Earth or anywhere else. Just water, a thin stew of simple molecules, and a sun overhead that will not stop pouring down energy, hour after hour after hour. That's the whole setup, nothing more. Energy in from above all day, warmth radiating back out to the cold black sky all night, and time, enormous, unhurried, almost unimaginable amounts of time. Millions of years. The pool doesn't care. It isn't waiting for anything. It's just sitting in the flow. Now watch the molecules. They jostle, they bump and break and reform, billions upon billions of times, in every random combination you can imagine. Most arrangements do nothing and fall apart in an instant, gone as fast as they came. But every so often, purely by chance, a cluster forms that happens to be good at soaking up the sun's energy and dumping it back out as heat. And here's the quiet magic. That cluster, precisely because it dissipates energy so well, is statistically a little more likely to persist and to seed more arrangements like itself than the clusters that don't. The energy flow rewards it, not by choosing, not by wanting, just by physics. The good dissipators last a beat longer, and a beat longer is all selection ever needs. So the good dissipators pile up. The pool slowly fills with them, generation after chemical generation, each one a little better at catching and spreading the light than the last. It is a kind of selection running long before anything is alive to be selected. Then one day, an arrangement appears that can do the ultimate trick. It can copy itself, and copying is the single greatest energy dissipation engine there is, because 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes a flood, and every last copy keeps burning through energy as fast as it can. The sun, knowing nothing, wanting nothing, intending nothing, has been quietly selecting for exactly this the entire time. You are watching non-life get funneled, step by patient step, toward life. Pushed the whole way by nothing but energy, time, and raw statistics. No plan required, no miracle needed, just a light that won't switch off. Nobody lit a spark of life in that pool. The light was the spark, and it never once stopped shining. The equation underneath it. That pool, non-life sliding toward life under a relentless sun, runs on one idea. Let me build it in 3 layers until it's yours. Layer 1, the intuition. Picture a ball on a hilly landscape. Left alone, it rolls to the nearest low point and stops. That's a normal system settling into disorder. But now imagine you're constantly tilting the whole landscape by pouring energy through it. Suddenly the low points move. New valleys open up where none existed before. And some of those new valleys are complex, organized, structured states. The energy flow doesn't just let order form. It reshapes the landscape so that order becomes the place the ball naturally rolls to. You're not fighting gravity to build a sandcastle. The energy is tilting the beach, so sandcastles form on their own. Layer 2, the equation. At its heart is the second law, written as simply as possible. The change in the total entropy of the universe is greater than or equal to 0. Entropy, that letter S, is just a measure of how many ways you can rearrange something and have it still look the same. High entropy means many ways, which looks like mess. Low entropy means few ways, which looks like order. The rule says the grand total summed up everywhere can only rise or hold, never fall. But, and this is the exact crack that lets you exist, the total is what's fixed, not each piece. Your local entropy can plunge. You can become breathtakingly, improbably ordered as long as you shove even more disorder out into the world around you than the order you build inside. And then comes the deeper, sharper version, the one the newer work leans on. The more heat a process dumps, the more one-directional it becomes. So over time, matter gets statistically funneled down the paths that dissipate the most energy. Order that dissipates well isn't just permitted, it's preferred. That last claim is still taking fire in the journals, and I won't pretend otherwise. But the foundation underneath it is as solid as physics gets. Layer 3, the fundamental thing, now turn the whole picture over in your hands. Maybe life and order are not the exception to a universe that decays. Maybe they are the universe's most efficient way of decaying. You are not the thing standing bravely against entropy. You may be the thing entropy invented to work faster. from one molecule to the cosmos. Follow that single idea up through every scale, and it gets stranger at each floor. Start at the smallest rung, one molecule that can copy itself. It doesn't want anything. It has no goal, no drive, no flicker of intention. It simply sits in a flow of energy and by copying spreads a pattern that happens to burn through that energy with brutal efficiency. That is the entire seed of all biology. Not a spark of magic breathed into dead matter, but a very good energy-dissipating trick that stumbled into the ability to duplicate itself and then never stopped. Everything else, every creature that has ever lived, is that one trick, elaborated across 4 billion years. Come up to you. Your whole body is a dissipative structure, the very same physics as that hexagonal fluid, just wildly, dizzyingly more elaborate. You take in concentrated energy 3 times a day. You hold yourself in staggering order, every cell in formation, and you radiate roughly 100 watts of waste heat into the room around you, every second like a dim light bulb made of meat. Sit in a small closed space and you will warm it, because that is what you are, a machine for turning concentrated energy into spread-out heat. You are a standing wave of order that exists only because energy keeps flowing through you. Stop the flow, stop eating, stop breathing, and the order doesn't go somewhere clever. It simply collapses back into the ordinary mess it was always borrowed from. Step up to the planet. The entire living biosphere is one enormous engine sitting between a blazing hot sun and the freezing dark of space. Its whole function, thermodynamically, is to take concentrated sunlight and grind it down into low-grade heat. Every forest, every ocean bloom, every herd and swarm and city full of people, machinery for dissipating a star. Life didn't show up to fight that flow. Life is how this planet got better at it. And at the largest scale, the vertigo arrives. The whole universe is running down, energy concentrated in stars slowly, inevitably spreading toward cold, featureless, even nothing. And complexity, life, perhaps even minds themselves. These may be tools the cosmos uses to run down faster. You may not be a passenger watching the universe wind down. You may be part of how it spends itself. You are not an accident. Here's the realization. I'm going to walk it in slowly, because it doesn't land the way you expect. You started this believing you were a fluke, a 1 in a trillion accident that almost didn't happen, that barely clawed its way into being against odds no gambler would ever take. The physics has just pulled that story clean out from under you. Because if order is what energy flow produces, then something like you wasn't a desperate long shot fighting the odds. It was the direction the whole system was already leaning. You are not a rebellion against physics. You are physics doing the exact thing it does when you give it light and time. But now the honest turn, and it cuts sharper than the comfortable version. This does not prove that you specifically had to exist. Not your face, not your name, not this one particular life with its particular memories reading these particular words. No equation in any journal anywhere says the universe was ever going to produce you. What the physics whispers is something colder and far bigger, that the category, complex, self-organizing, energy-hungry order, is favored, not you, the shape of things like you. The universe was always going to make eddies. It was never promised to make this one. Sit with how strange that leaves you standing. You are not a miracle that beat impossible odds, and you are not a meaningless accident either. You are a local, temporary, particular expression of a tendency woven straight into the laws themselves. One specific whirl in a river that was always, everywhere, going to churn out whirls. The lottery framing was wrong, but so was the framing that made you cosmically inevitable. You are inevitable and irreplaceable at the very same time, and neither of those words means what you always thought it did. The universe guaranteed the eddies. It never guaranteed this one, and yet here this one is, made of borrowed atoms and passing energy, reading its own explanation. The dissipation woke up. If you are the universe's way of dissipating energy, then here is what actually physically happened on this one small planet. The dissipation woke up. The heat-spreading machinery, after billions of years of blind churning, folded itself into a shape complex enough to turn around and ask why it's here. Let that sink all the way in. You are the part of the process that became aware of the process. The river started wondering about the river, and nothing in the physics ever demanded that. The equations will hand you convection cells and hurricanes and self-copying molecules without complaint. But they do not, anywhere, in any line of any derivation, require that the order start to wonder. That part is a gift nobody can account for. 3 doors. So what do you do with that? This is exactly where honest physics stops talking and hands the question back to you. Because there are 3 doors, and the mathematics cannot tell you which one is real. Door 1. It's pure chance. The thermodynamic story is being overread. Life is rarer than the hype, and you truly are a fluke after all. Door 2. It's a deeper law. Order really is favored, and life is written into the fine print of the cosmos, waiting wherever energy flows long enough. Door 3. It's something we haven't found yet, because even if physics tilts the landscape toward life, why the laws are tuned to allow any of it, why there's energy and matter and rules at all, is a question these equations never so much as touch. And underneath all 3 sits the one question I cannot close. If the universe favors order that can ask, why am I here? Then does being necessary to the cosmos hand you a reason to exist? Or is being a tool of the universe's slow unwinding the loneliest answer of all? The physics gets you to the doorway. It cannot walk you through. That step has always been yours. What you actually are. Look at a candle flame. Really look at it. It has a shape, steady, recognizable, almost solid-looking. It holds itself together moment to moment. You could point right at it and say, that is the flame. But it isn't a thing at all. It's a process. A pattern that energy makes as it pours through wax and air, ordered and glowing and eerily alive. And it exists for one reason only, because the energy is flowing through it right now. Pinch off the fuel and the flame doesn't go somewhere to wait. It doesn't travel or hide. It simply stops being. The shape was never a possession it owned. It was an event that was happening to it. You are the flame, not the wax, not the atoms. They're only ever passing through you, borrowed for a while and returned. You are the pattern the energy makes on its way from the hot sun down to the cold and waiting dark, a standing wave of order in a universe that is patiently everywhere coming apart. You were told you were a lucky accident, a fluke that almost wasn't, a coincidence that barely happened. You are something far less comforting than that, and far more astonishing. You are not a thing the universe happened to make one time and set down. You are a thing the universe cannot help but do wherever it gets energy and time enough to do it. You are not the exception to the rule that everything falls apart. You are what falling apart looks like when it becomes beautiful enough to notice itself. You are what a little light and a lot of time turn into, and when the flow finally stops, you won't fail or lose. You'll simply hand the pattern back to the river that lent it, the way every flame does. You were never the accident. You were what the light does.